So I figure I'd make this kind of brief on this Father's Day. This Father's Day 2021. My father has been gone since 2017. And the last show for me, I did one on Father's Day, but it didn't necessarily represent uh, basically the kind of Father's Day show that I wanted. And it kind of bothered me a little bit, so I'm deciding to do something a little bit different. As a young man, particularly in my adolescence, and I think a lot of people go through this where they, really didn't like their father. They, you know, like most fathers, thin skinned and lacks patience and doesn't necessarily uh, hear your concerns and is somewhat of an authority figure. And I kind of rebelled against that. And there were certain things that he did, even now, that are unfair, and some things that were rather cruel. And, as a kid, I always looked up to those fathers in the movies. My father was a big movie fan, and I always liked the stoic kind of men who were not quick to anger. I don't think most men or most women are like that. When I look at the classic films, men are reasonable and rational, and women are oftentimes over emotional, and that's kind of not true. Both sides can intertwine. Some women, as a matter of fact, my mother was far less emotional than my father, and much more of a fair person than my dad. But my dad, had I handled things differently and not with anger, I believe that I could have gone to reason with him, but I was stuck in my own ego, and that is a problem sometimes, and that's a problem with me. There are a lot of problems in this world, and if you come to it from an ego point of view, I don't think you're going to do as well. Um, and it's also the people who complain about this country. I think they have a cinematic view of the world and an unrealistic view of the world. Uh, no nation is perfect, but when people complain about America, I always say, well, what are you comparing this country to? What internal strife do other countries have? And I think that cinema and movies uh, put us into perhaps a fantasy world and not necessarily a realistic view on things. That people are flesh and blood human beings with flaws. As I said before, fathers, are not angels. They're human beings. They make mistakes and they have trauma. Some of them have trauma in their lives and they react to that trauma, and not always in the best way. Same thing with America. America is run not by angels but by human beings, and sometimes they make mistakes, and nobody wants to fess up to the mistakes they make. It's just human nature. Anyway, this has been Brian with Transparency and Merit. Like and subscribe. Leave a comment down below if you wish. Thank you for listening.